So I guess we are finally live. So let's wait for the people to come. Let me first spread the word around. Hello Dave. Hello. What's up? We'll wait for a couple of minutes for more people to join, and then we'll start the session. Let's see. Let's welcome. Let's wait for a couple of minutes before we'll start at like 3 minutes or 4 minutes like that. After that, we can start the session. So yeah, people are joining in. We'll start the session in just like 1 2 minutes, right? After that, I'll introduce Shreyans on the channel, and then Shreyans will take the session. So today's session is about your virtual world, how to like live in a new virtual world where you could earn money by drawing pixel art, right? A world where NFTs and digital art rules, right? And a world where you could literally live anywhere virtually, right? A virtual revolution where people don't need to rely on uh, other big corporations for earning money or like typical jobs. So today's session will be taken by none other than the famous Cyanogen Morgan in our Telegram group, or like he's a UI artist, okay, and his real name is Shyans Jain. So he's here to tell you about what is this world of digital art and NFTs, and how you can use your digital art to earn money or even become a millionaire in real life using this pixel art. So without further delay, let's welcome Shreyans on the channel.
Hey Fez,
So hey Shreyans,
it's
what's
great to be
up?
here.
Yeah. So
It's
how are you
doing great.
feeling?
I'm
Yeah.
feeling kind of excited to do the
So
session.
yeah. So I leave this session on your hands. Okay. So
Yeah,
the stage is yours.
yeah, thanks. So, guys, I'm going to talk about 3D and the world of 3D, how it all works. I've made a slide for it and I'm going to present it right now. So, I'm presenting it. Yeah. So, the session is about virtual reality. We are going to talk about how the world of virtual reality has come across, and it has been like the age is kind of small. It's been around for 20 or 30 years, and the world of CGI 3D artworks has been booming for a long while right now. Everything we see in TV or movies is almost having ton of VFX. Even a movie like 1917 had a lot of VFX in it. Even a normal love story movie has around 1000 VFX shots to recompose or change things which the director does not like. Let's say the director does not like the red color of the dress color of the female artist. So he will ask the VFX artist to change the color. They can change the color from red to green to yellow or something else, whatever they like. This is the world of virtual reality, which nothing can be, you cannot tell if the thing is fake or real because it's so hard to distinguish between them. I want to talk about how I got into it. At first, when I joined the college, I was like into coding and I wanted to make my own apps, make my own websites, work on the basically only code. So I started working on it. I saw the group of Google DSC and I was like, everyone is buzzing around for Flutter, Flutter, Flutter. I was like, what is this? I need to check it out. So I went to some sessions and saw that Flutter is very nice. It's very interesting and very easy to use. Eventually, with time, when COVID struck, I was kind of interested to try it out. So in second year, I started working on it. I had some idea of Flutter. I had some idea of Android Studio, and I worked on it. I made some apps. Then I got into UI designing. After getting into UI designing, I was like, the design field is very interesting. I want to get into it. I want to work more onto it. So I worked on graphic designing. I worked in game development. Then I eventually stumbled upon Blender because Blender is the only tool which is free, open source, and yet so powerful. It is just 300 MBs, but it can do everything you'd ever want to do in 3D, and it's so versatile. So I started working on Blender, and I got into the whole phase of just blendering, and blendering. I made around 100 assets in just 3 months. I spent my last 3 months making daily artworks. That's how engrossing Blender is. That's how engrossing the 3D world is. So to talk more about myself, I'm a UI designer, I'm a brand designer, I'm a 3D modeling person, animator, and I also work in advertisements. So basically, I've covered all my bases in creative work. I do all the creative work I want to do. So you can check my work in Instagram and Twitter as Sino3D, my better name. I've been using this name for a while because I used to be a big fan of Samsung mod phones and rooting my phones, flashing firmwares and all. So back then, when I started at the age of 12, the thing of the raging theme was Samsung mod, the Samsung mod OS, also known as CMOS. I flashed it on my old phone and I was like, wow, phone को पूरा बदल दिया भाई, क्या भाई सैमसंग से पूरा बना दिया स्टॉक एंड्रॉइड, मजा आ गया. So that was a very fun phase also. This is also a part of me, the hacker portion and the routing portion. To talk more about 3D, let's talk about 3D now, the main topic today. Here are some of my artworks. You can see I had chosen like 5. So popular 3D tools. Let's talk about the tools right now. Before we get into the whole 3D phase, I want to talk about the tools we have. So in tools, we have Blender, Cinema 4D, Houdini, Maya. These are the ones I mentioned right now because these are the most popular ones. But there are tons of tools available, and some are free, some are paid. Most of them are paid because this is a very industrial work. This is dominated by professionals. This is not a thing which is dominated by hobbyists. So we won't be getting free tools like Figma is a free tool for hobbyists and professionals both. Blender is one of a kind tool which is free, open source, and has tons of features in it. You can use it to model stuff, you can use it to texture stuff, you can use it to sculpt stuff. And there's a big difference between the things you can do in Blender and you cannot do in other tools. And there are some specialized tools in which you can do special things which you cannot do in Blender. Blender being an all-in-one tool, it's like a master of all trades but money. It's a jack of all trades but master of none, which is why Blender is not used in the industry as much as I want it to be popular. And the other take, we have Cinema 4D. The reason Cinema 4D is getting so popular is because it's like a very new tool right now and it has a very nice engine. All these tools have a render engine. This render engine is how the things get simulated and they also get rendered out. Because what we are seeing in the engine, what we are seeing in the tool is just a viewport. A viewport is basically the basic diagram or the basic structure of the assets you're using. So if I have to show it to you, let me just change the stream. Entire screen. Yeah. Let me just show it to you. I'm opening Blender right now to show you all the UI and how the viewport works and how the render engine works. Like I can show it to you rather than explaining it to you. Takes a while to open up. Yeah. So let's open the Krabby Patty. I made this few days ago, around 2 days ago, and this is how the layout looks. It kind of looks complex, but don't be worried. It's kind of easy to use. It's nothing special. So the thing is, you are seeing this gray thing. This gray thing is the viewport display. You are seeing the models, the bun, the lettuce, the onions, the tomatoes, the patty, the cheese. These are the models I have made. Everything is uh, everything is made in Blender itself, and I didn't have to import anything or export anything. The background plane is the same photo, and let's show you the result. How does the thing look? Okay. So this is how the whole thing looks after rendering out. It's rendering right now. As you can see in the top left portion, it is saying path tracing samples. We will talk about it. So when the sample, what happens in sampling is if you increase the number of samples, the better the quality of the render will be. Right now it rendered out for 32 samples in the viewport, but my render is going to render at 2000 samples. So as you can see, the render is much different than the viewport display. It is having textures, it is having some bumps, colors, reflections, and this is not it. After rendering it out, we also have to go through the phase of compositing. And after that, we get the final result. But that's for the things, like that's the very later portion and the last stage. I had just had to show you the entire layout, and I think this is kind of informative to show how does it look. So Cinema 4D, let's get back to the topic. Cinema 4D. Cinema 4D is very popular right now, mostly because of the render engine. The render engine in Blender is Cycles. It has two engines. One is Eevee, one is Cycles. We will talk about it, and it's a very interesting topic, like how these two are different and how they work. So in Cinema 4D, the engine is used is Octane and Redshift. Both of them are paid engines, and they are very nice engines. They work really fast, and to an extent, I would say they're even better than the engines found in Blender. Houdini, on the other hand, is a more procedural tool. It is used to make buildings, it is used to make your simulations, let's say your water simulations, smoke simulations, your clouds. All of these can be made in Houdini much faster and much better than Blender. You cannot do these things in Cinema 4D, but you can do these in Blender. But as I said, it's much better and faster in Houdini. So it's the preferred tool when it comes to the industry. And lastly, Maya. Maya is the modeling tool. It is a very ancient tool, just as ancient as Blender. Blender has been in the industry at the same time as the other tools, and right now it is getting some traction. I'm very happy to see that happen. But Maya is the go-to tool for modeling and 3D work. People have been using it for like everything, for modeling your tanks, modeling your airplanes, your cars. Maya is the go-to. Now, the other two tools, which is Unity and Unreal Engine, they are much different than the tools I mentioned above because these are the game engines. These are used to make games, they can be used to make your mobile applications, and they are not running with path tracing. They are running with real time engines. They are meant to be running, they are meant to render out the things instantly in a millisecond. Because when you're playing a game, you don't want the game to be choppy, you want the game to be very smooth. And that's when Unity and Unreal Engine comes out. They are running at a very fast speed, they are rendering out things beautifully, and they don't look bad at the speed they are producing the results at. So let's say I talk about a game like Last of Us. They are using their own render engines, their own game engines, and the result are one of the best, I would say. Last of Us has one of the best looking games. The development team, Naughty Dogs, has made one of the best games in terms of looks, not the story. I don't know anything about the story. I've not played the game. I will not opinionate about that. But the whole look, the whole design aspect is wonderful. The way we have designed everything intricately with so much details and so much thought is wonderful. Even the aspect like a door, when you're opening a door in Last of Us, it's very well thought. It's showing an animation of the character like Ellie opening the door precisely, and it's like not a very ajar movement in other games where you're just pressing a button E and you're just pushing the door, or like the door is automatically opening like a ghost. That does not happen in Last of Us. They show the entire animation, which is very nice. When it comes to Unity, Unity is one of the easiest ones to enter into. Unity has a very huge code user base as well as Unreal Engine. Both of them are very popular. The third game engine I would say is Godot, but it's not that popular. Unreal Engine has a very big update right now with Unreal Engine 5, from which they got three new features. First is Lumen. Lumen is going to change the entire thing in gaming industry because it's going to change the lighting, uh, the technique of lighting. The technique of lighting we have right now is rasterization. The new technique which NVIDIA has promoted is known as ray tracing, or RTX, as it's popularly known. But Unreal Engine is trying to make sure that it is better than the RTX in NVIDIA. It is trying to promote Lumen. Lumen is going to tax less than the RTX technology, and it is going to give better results. The second update they provided was Nanite. Nanite is a very interesting update. In games, whatever model we see has poly count. So let's say there's an apple. An apple has around 1000, 2000 polygons, and that is nothing for the PC to run. But when it comes to something more complex, like let's say a cliff, or let's say a car, which is a very detailed car, they will be having around 100,000 polygons. Your game characters have around 300,000 characters, polygons, and sometimes even 1 million polygons. And these are very hard to process for the computer. Nanite is meant to make sure that these processing powers are not wasted. It is going to make sure that the models which are close to you have the most polygons, but the models which are far from the camera will have the least amount of polygons to make sure that the processing is safe and it is more efficient for other things like lighting, for your textures, and that you have better frames per second. So I've introduced you to all the tools which are popular right now, and let's talk about the basics. I want to talk about things which are like more prevalent in the 3D world right now to get you help you like with the whole idea. So the first idea I wanted to clear out is modeling and sculpting. These two are very different things. On the left in the screen share, you can see is a robot. This robot has a lot of pipes. It has some plates, breastplates, some, I think, weaponry, some bionic arm, some pumps, and a radar on his head. So this entire thing can be made in your modeling. You don't have to sculpt anything here. It is just polygon and this poly modeling. Pretty easy, pretty simple. But the hard part when you're doing modeling is the amount of effort it is going to take. You have to model each and every piece here. Like let's say this pipe, it is modeled separately. This breastplate, it is modeled separately. This another pipe, it is also modeled separately. So all of this is going to be a cumulative work and takes a lot of time to make. So if I had to make this model, it would take me around 3 to 4 days. If I have worked on it nonstop, around 20 hours. And it's kind of hard to do. After modeling the whole thing, we also have to do is texturing. We have to apply some maps on it, some colors to it. You cannot just give a base model and call it a. You have to apply textures on it. You have to apply some dirt maps on it. Like let's say this area, the right arm of the robot, he has some dust speckles on it. When you're modeling, when you're texturing it, you have to make sure it has some imperfections. Without imperfections, if your entire model is perfect, it won't look right. It won't look nice. So you have to add these minute details to your model, give some scratches, give some colors, some different colors, like some paint, some chips. This is the important part of the modeling, texturing. Next comes the sculpting. Sculpting is more like playing with clay. In, in any tool you use, like ZBrush or Blender, these are the popular tools used for sculpting right now. So you can just play with a ball and give it some shape. I can show you something. I was making some sculpts lately. I'm trying to get into the whole thing. So I made an alien. As you can see, the alien I sculpted was initially a ball. I used a ball here and gave it an entire shape. I applied some subdivisions on it. The polygons have increased a lot. they were much lesser, but after applying subdivisions, it increases. So if I use some, where is the snake hook? Yeah. With this tool, I can give it some shapes. I can give it a human-like shape. And the more you do, the more you work on it, you can just give it some shapes and all, like this. It is a very basic shape. I didn't want to make anything, so I left it. I just want to show you this model. This is the sculpt I made, and it took me around 3 hours because I'm just learning right now. So it is like very progressive. As you learn, the faster you become, and the more easier it is to make the perfect decisions while sculpting something. The rendered look like this. It's a very basic one. It's just a basic alien with black eyes and a pink texture with some surface. So I'm talking about this sculpture. This sculpt is very complex because it is using a lot of things. It has your imperfections in the skin. Some areas have blotchiness of the red skin. Your nose has some pores on it. The eyes have amazing reflections. The iris looks amazing. You have some minute hair particles for the mustache and the beard. He also made some hair for like the natural hair. You also have to create the clothing and everything. Then there are wrinkles. This is also a very nice wrinkle here. Then creases for the lips. So I think you have a better understanding of what is modeling and what is sculpting. Like these two are very different things. And most of the times in 3D, people are specialized in just one thing. They don't try to learn both of the tools. They try to learn single thing and master it. Because that is better to market yourself in the industry or like make better results. Now let's talk about the render engine, the thing I was going to talk about, EV and cycles. So what is like I have explained your render engine. It is how the results come out, right? So how does it work? You might be wondering, like, how is the render engine working? So basically, a render engine is meant to calculate the mathematics and the physics for your render. It's going to calculate the amount of reflections the light is going to have. The light are going to bounce around. They are going to create some reflections. They are going to have some ambient occlusions, some diffused lighting, and this is all done in the render engine. The more efficient the render engine, the more popular it is. For instance, we have Cycles right now, but Cycles X is the new update which is going to release for Blender, and that is apparently going to reduce the render time by half. And reducing a render time by half is incredible, because imagine you are rendering a whole movie and it's going to take you around 50 hours, or it's a short film and it's going to take you around 50 hours of render time. But when cycle X will be out, the render time will be going from 50 hours to 25 hours. You're going to save your so much time from those draft renders and your those basic renders. It's going to cut a lot of time, and it's going to help you to improve things like your models, your animations, your rigs, and it's better for the result at the end. So real time and path tracing. Real time is basically, as the name suggests, it's a real time rendering engine. All like the engines I mentioned in the game engines, the Unity and Unreal Engine is a real time engine, because everything you see in the game is real time. It's coming out instantly. It's giving you 60 frames per second of renders, or sometimes less, sometimes more. It can be 30 FPS, it can be 120 FPS, depending on the monitor and your specs. So the more complex the game scene is, the less your FPS is going to be, because it's creating stress on your game engine to create stuff, to create the renders. On the left, we have Ellie. This is a Last of Us game, and it looks fantastic. Even though it's a real-time engine, you can see so much details in it because it's running on a very nice. It's running on PS5, I'm assuming, or PS4. I don't know, but it looks fantastic. If it's PS4, it's marvelous. The amount of sheer details you can see here is insane. You can see some moss on the ground. You can see some moss on the trees. a lot of fauna and ferns. It's just insane. The amount of the poly count of a vegetation is also very taxing on the engine, and the ability to have so much in a game, so much fauna in the game is amazing. A good example for this will be Witcher 3. Witcher 3 launched in 2015 and had a lot of grass, a lot of movements, a lot of trees, a lot of nature aspects. And that was a game changer back then. The game ran pretty rough. It needed a very good PC to run because having so many graphical intensive things in the game will be taxing. And the game developers knew about it, but they still did it because it looks fantastic. It looks natural. It looks vibrant. On the right hand side, we have path tracing. Path tracing is working in a different way. You can see the realism in the chocolate, the Snicker bar. You can see the nougat, you can see the biscuit and the chocolate. The way it works is it is the camera of your render of your engine is going to shoot out some particles, some light rays. These light rays are going to bounce on the models, on the assets, and they will create more light around the scene. These lights keep on bouncing around, creating diffused light, creating ambient occlusions and shadows. And that's what the camera is going to capture. But that does not happen in real time. In real time engines, we see rasterization. Rasterization is different and much faster. When the CGI was being created, in the early stages, all the computers were using rasterization to create stuff. They were not using path tracing. Path tracing is a very new technology in comparison. Rasterization was much faster and much easier for the computer to compute. But path tracing takes a lot of time. I'm assuming the single frame of Snickers took the artist around 20 minutes to render out. If he was using around 2000 or 3000 samples and was on an older PC, it will take him around 20 to 30 minutes. That's how intensive path tracing is. But it is worth it at the end of the day. When you watch a movie from Pixar, their films take around 17 minutes on average for a single frame. And their movies have 24 frames per second. So if we do the count of mathematics, it's going to take 1.5 years just to render out the entire movie. And to give you a whole gist, they produced the movie in 4 years. They spent 1 year on writing the story, 1 year on creating the models, 1 year on the setup of the rigs, the animations, and 1.5 years for the rendering it out. So they take around 4.5 years to 4 years to just finish a single movie, a movie like Soul or Coco. Let's talk about CGI and VFX now. So CGI is also known as computer generated graphics, and VFX is visual effects. VFX is basically your manipulation of the videos. VFX is a very common thing right now, and as I told you all, that VFX has become so popular that even in in a normal love flick, you will see around 1,000 VFX shots just to improvise something, like remove some characters from the background, remove some obstructions, or add something into the scene to make it more impactful. That's how VFX works. It is meant to change minute things, but have a bigger impact at the end. CGI, on the other hand, is more about things which are generated in the computer itself. They are not your classical VFX, which is also working in tandem with the cameras. When we are shooting a movie, or let's say like the clip I've shown here, the Wonder Woman shot, this is using a green screen. This is the VFX part, in which we are going to chroma key the characters out, chroma key the actors out, and we are going to use their action, their acting in a much better scene. Like let's say she is coming out from a window by breaking it out, and that is not possible for her to do in real life while acting. She might get hurt, and that's where we use either stunt doubles or VFX to negate the risk of getting her hurt and also get a realistic shot. They can use slow motions in it, which is not possible in real life, and they can get a much cleaner shot, a much cinematic shot. There are ways to use VFX like practical effects. There's a movie known as The Thing. The movie is incredible. It's like a 1990s movie. It's a horror film, and it has some uh, aliens or like horrifying creatures in it. But it is all practical animation. It's made entirely with animatronics. They are very goalful and very, what should I say, very smart the way they have used it. You can't tell if it's VFX or if it's a practical, like it's a practical design. Then there's compositing. As I said, when you want to remove something, you have to composite it in or out of your scenes. And smart camera tricks also come in this when you're using your camera very precisely or very innovatively to make some different scenes or to have some effects on it. That's how VFX works. And to an extent, the thing I've written, like even good sound design is part of VFX. I would say it is. You might be wondering why, but the thing is, VFX is not entirely meant to be done with visuals. It also needs to have some support with the sound. Like let's say there's a horror movie like Conjuring. Have you ever focused on the sound design they have done there? They have some boom, boom, boom. This goes on in the background just to create a more impactful scene. They want to make the whole scene go more horrifying or like have some cinematic feel to it, that you feel more scared. Without that sound design, you won't be feeling that much scared, but that sound design is helping you. And this is a very impactful thing as a viewer, as a audience. Now I'm going to show you some VFX shots. If there are any questions, I would love to hear them out. Any comments and all. Yeah, Wally is the best picture. I love Wally. Wally is amazing. It is amazing. And Big Hero 6 too. It's amazing. So let's just talk about the VFX shots now. Firstly, I want to talk about Tron. Tron is one of the first movies to come out with a very amazing CGI. And it's a very impactful thing for me to watch as a aspiring 3D artist. When I first saw it, I was like, it's very mediocre and not that good. But when you think about the technology they had back then, it's amazing. They didn't have amazing computers back then. They had to do everything by hand. They couldn't scan things. They couldn't model things. Everything was done with maths. They were calculating the polygons and making models out of thin air. And that's amazing. Let's watch a video from Corridor Crew. I think that will help you understand what I wanted.
So we did a recent episode on Tron for Visual Effects Artists React. Now, the original Tron from 1982 is one of the first movies to have heavy CG in it. Other movies have had CG in them, like for example, in the original Star Wars, A New Hope, there's the blueprint of the Death Star that they show in a little tiny corner of a screen. Whereas Tron took it to a whole nother level. This light cycle scene, it's super, super basic. It's super approachable now with the tools we have. We were watching this and reveling at all the immense work they had to do back then. They didn't have, ways to model. They didn't have ways to animate. Get this, they didn't have a way to get the rendering from the computer to the film. I mean, they had to film off the screen for some of this stuff. It's pretty crazy.
They didn't have GIFs?
So we thought it would be cool to go back and recreate a scene from a major motion picture in 1982, and we will do it in one day, and we will make it exactly the same. Now, we're not going to go to the point where it's like we have to somehow...
I just wanted to talk about this, and
It's okay, Mom. He's here to help.
I just wanted to show you like the whole Tron scene and how they recreate it. I will not be showing the entire video because it's a good video and you should watch in their channel and give them some views. So I'm going to show you the last portion of the difference between their tech that time in 1982 and our current tech. By the way, the entire thing is made in Blender. So Blender. Yeah, here is the video, I think.
Margin that they're not the same shot.
That explosion looks really solid, dude. Like,
Hell yeah.
you matched the aesthetic spot on.
So this is where it's most obvious by like a huge margin that they're not the same shots because they don't line up at all. And yet, if you were just to look at them one after another, you wouldn't be able to tell.
It's one thing to just animate some stuff, driving it around in a grid. It's another thing to try to make it look like somebody's work from 40 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, those turns were just ridiculous.
So they tried to make the whole thing on their own in a day, and I think they kind of nailed it. But this is something else I want to show. They tried to make it in the 1990s style, but when they used they used the modern technology, the modern render engines and the bloom and all, it looks much different. I want to show that.
Super cool. Hit us up, please. Yeah.
What if he went through and just updated all the textures and threw in a modern rendering engine? So it's the exact same shots as the original Tron, but looks more modern.
Yeah, I mean, we could totally do that. We would literally just be like pressing buttons and changing sliders and stuff like that to just up it to the next level.
This is Blue Leader to Blue Bikes. Run these guys into your jet balls. Copy, Blue Leader. Copy, Blue Leader. This is Gold 1, Gold 2, and 3. Split out, take them 1-1.
Looks good in it.
Well, let us know what you think of our Tron sequence. Did it match the original? Was it a complete disrespect to the artist?
It looks much different from what we saw in the original picture and the original attempt, which is why I would say like recreating these shots are much fun. Like I tried to make this shot, but I like left it in the middle because I felt bored and all. So I will try to get it back and I will show it to you guys. I'll do it someday. But it's very fun to make these shots, to try to compete with the old technology and make new things out of it. And this is why I love Corridor Digital. Their channel is all about this. They make VFX shots, they try to recreate shots, they do comparisons, they talk about and they react on VFX and CGIs, even animations and all. If you are into 2D animations and want to see something on it, it's a great channel and you should be watching their stuff. It's very fun. It's much fun. Now let's talk about something more iconic, the Terminator scene. It's one of those scenes like I think every kid knows about, and it's one of the best movies, I would say.
Come with me if you want to live.
It's okay, Mom. He's here to help.
Come
It's
with me if
okay.
you want to leave. Now this scene, this is insane. The way he melts and joins back like a jelly is insane, and it looks great. And this thing of holding his hand because of the gun is amazing. If you go back to it and let's see some minute details here, you can see his eyes move. It's a trouble to use this.
Help. It's okay.
If you focus on his left side of his face, you can see his eyes go in, they press and they come out. They have a bounce to it, like a jelly material. Even though he's a metal, he's like a very, what kind of metal should I say? It's like a flexible material, an alloy which can bend and will never die or damage itself. The shadows from these grills, you can see on that animated portion also, on those CGI portions. And these minute details are something which give a shot more impact. These are the things which make the shots more realistic and worth watching for. These are the things which will not be finding out in more Indian things, to be honest. And they are using this in in a very old movie. They were focusing on these things, these minor details and all. There's also a very good thing in VFX, I would say, there's perspective. When you play with perspective, I love it because perspective is something which is very interesting. If you have seen Hobbit, you can see how they played with perspective, and they downplayed the size of the characters and upsize some characters by putting them in front of the camera and putting some far from the camera. The tables were made in a very distinguished shape so that they can match with the angles even, and they can like, it's very interesting, it's fun. Like these some basic VFX shots where you don't have to use the computer, you're just using your real camera and real people without anything. That's also fun to me, both CGI and both VFX.
Go.
That is me looking at that shot. Arnold Bhai to bodybuilder. Yes. I love this metal reflections on it. And now this portion. You can see that this thing is practical effects. This looks really realistic. And the reflections on the metal portion is very correct. It's accurate to the scenario he is in right now in the hallway of a hospital. But later on, you can see something different in it.
What the fuck is going on?
Right now, the whole thing has changed. Now this is CGI. You cannot repair something itself in practical effects. You can destroy something and then reverse it, but that won't look good enough. But in this case, we have to use CGI. We cannot use practical effects. So when they use CGI, it does not match up to the realistic standards of practical effects. You can see the reflections are looking very odd. They don't have that much detail. They look very smooth. And things in real life are not that smooth. They need to have imperfections. They need to have some roughness.
Get down.
I think that is enough VFX. There's nothing more to see in the scene. So I think you have learned something about the practical effects and the VFX and CGI, how it works and how it differs from the time it was created at. Let's move on from this and let's talk about something interesting. Let's talk about Pixar, their work. So Toy Story being one of the first CGI movies, animated CGI movies, is a big achievement back then. They didn't have the most powerful tools. They didn't have a very well-versed staff in programming and all, which they have right now. But what they made with the movie is amazing. To create an entirely animated movie in computer, which is running for 1.5 hours, is a big feat. And I have my hats off to the team working on Toy Story 1. But there's something even better. There is Soul. Soul is one of the latest movies by Pixar and one of my favorites as well. The way they have dealt with the entire scene, like with lighting, with texturing, with models, and the realism they have provided is on a different level. And I want to show you to you to give a good comparison of time, of how far we have come from in 30 years and 25 years, how much developed our technology is, and how much better our CGI is, that we cannot tell if it is fake or it is real. On the left, you can see the lighting is very dull. Everything looks same lit. It does not have a contrast here. The walls on the back, the face of the Woody, the hand of Woody, of Buzz Lightyear, it's all the same color. It's the same contrast, the same brightness, and it is not real. It speaks it is fake. It shows it is fake. It is CGI. It is computer generated. It's animation. But on the right hand side, we have Soul. You can see the rim lighting on the cat. And this lighting is very interesting. It looks amazing. It gives gravitas to the characters. It gives some depth to the models they are using. On the background, we can see amazing blur, the bokeh, the sweet, sweet bokeh. I love bokeh. And the movie has plenty of it. The way they have used their camera work, they have choreographed the whole thing is amazing. You can see the rim lighting again on his face on the right side, and it's fantastic. So some lighting examples, let me demonstrate some examples of these renders. All of these three photos are renders, and none of them are photos taken by a camera, especially the first one, which looks like a photo taken by a camera. It is a Japanese scene, a new Tokyo scene, where you can see a lot of things happening. It's a very buzzing scene, and but does not have a very busy street, but it has a lot of lightings, and which is why I wanted to show it to you, how lighting impacts. On the left, we have a blue frame here, a banner of a store, and that lighting is creating an ambient light around it. You can see the light bounce around here. You can see the same thing happen for the neon lights, the red neon lights on the top, the golden neon lights. And these small decorations on the wires are also creating an ambient light all around. You can see a pole dancer also giving some ambient lighting. And this is a very important part of the lighting portion. You have to create some ambient lighting all across the scene to give some impact or some contrast in the scene, to make it vibrant, to make it living. Even though the street is empty, the whole scene looks very impactful and lively. That's what lighting does. It can bring impact to the whole scene. It can give it some life. Now let's go to the second scene. This is a more medieval or a mythical scene, and the reason I chose was god rays. God rays are one of the most important aspects, I feel, when it comes to setting a light. You will be using some volumetrics, you'll be using some sun lamps or light lamps, and giving some god rays. These god rays make the whole scene look amazing. They give it a very mythical or mystical scene here. As it is, the whole scene is very natural. It does not look very different from a normal thing in real life. But these god rays, these different trees, like which are out of the earth, they look otherworldly, and that's make the whole scene different. And lastly, we have the dystopian scene in a factory, I would say, which is flooded with water, and the protagonist does not have a head. He has a circular red on his head. Interesting design. We are seeing him boat around and roam in a dystopia, in a broken down city. But we don't see any light source here. We don't see any exit points. What we see is a bright light from the foreground, from the background, which is giving some impact, which is lighting up the foreground as well. As if there's only one single source of light and the protagonist is swimming towards it. We can see those light impact the reflections on the water. You can see the light source impacting the walls of these buildings and giving some ambient light there. You can see the red head of the character also have some bloom and some ambient light. It is also impacting the boat, and that's a very nice touch. These small details are what gives a render his own the artist's his own definition, his own take of the scene. It lets them take their own definition. It lets them explain their own vibe and give it their own twist. Now let's get back to textures. I was talking about Toy Story and Soul. So as you can see in the fabrics of the bed, they don't have a lot of textures. It has some bump maps. The Woody has a hat, which is a very plain color, brown, beige colored, and there's some wires on it, but it is not enough. It does not look that good in the close-ups. And in the right, we have Soul. Look at that sweater. Just look at it. It has fuzz. It has some fur on it. The hair particles are just magnificent. You can see his hand, and you can spot the textures. You can spot the pores on his hand. You cannot tell this photo is not real. You will be like it is a real photo. It can't be a render. And this is how texture matters. Even if you have a very simple model, if you are using amazing textures on it, it is a game changer. It can change everything. And textures are nothing but just images. We open something to show. Let's open the burger only. I think I have in Figma. Yeah. So I made render recently. I think I deleted it. I deleted it. Shit. So I will have to open the Blender now. Sad. Okay. So let's go to the shading portion. The shading portion is where you create the textures and apply it. So here, the secret ingredient of my Krabby Patty is going to be subsurface. Subsurface is nothing but the reflections of light entering your model, like in your skin when you are using light source. Let's get a light source. I don't have a light right now. My phone is the camera, so I can't show it with my phone. But never mind. So have you ever tried to use a dodge and put it in front of your hand? You can see those light pass through your skin and create those red refractions. You can see the blood in your hand. That is called subsurface refraction. This subsurface refraction is how you can make something realistic. That's how the light bounces and creates more reflections, or like have some color peel through the models, peel through the entire burger. Here, when I see into the cheese, I've applied a 0.33 subsurface of yellow color. But when I remove it, it looks like a plastic. It is mostly evident on this thing because it is very thin. But when I increase it, you can see the whole thing has changed. The whole cheese looks much more different. It does not look fake. It does not look like plastic anymore. I'll stick with 0.33 because I think that's enough subsurface for a cheese. It's not the skin after all. I've also applied subsurface for the meat, for the onions, for tomatoes, for the pickles, lettuce, and bread. And applying this subsurface had given it a different look. It made it look more realistic. So that's how important textures are. Now let's talk about models. On the left, we have the dog from Toy Story and we have the cat from Soul. And as you can see, the biggest difference here is going to be the quality of model, the amount of fur they have, the textures they have. In the case of this Toy Story one, it's a very basic model. Even I can make this in a few hours. It won't take me long. But the model in this one, in Soul, has taken a lot of time to sculpt it out. The person who worked on it has given it a lot of animation rigs, a lot of shape keys. These shape keys are how the animations are working, like putting the hand on his chest. Even this was animated by someone. You have to animate each and every portion of the rig manually, then import it and then use it for the movie. That's how tedious the work is, but it is well worth what it takes. You can see on the left, the textures here used are trying to mimic the look of a hair. They have a very greasy look, as if this is the hair, but it is not hair. It is trying to mimic hair, which is looking fake. But on the right side, they are using actual fur. They are using actual hair simulations. This entire body of the cat is using around 1 million or 2 million hair particles. Then these hair particles were given colors. They were combed down, given a shape. Some portions were very fuzzy hair, and some portion had a very laid down hair. So you have to comb it down also in the 3D tool. Then he has some whiskers. Here we also have some whiskers, but they were not able to use so many hair particles on their time, because hair is a very taxing thing. It takes a lot of physical resources and like physics calculations to calculate each and every movement of the hair. As the model moves his hand, even the hair will move and bounce around. So that's how the physics is involved in the whole scene. Yeah, but yeah, this is the difference between models at that time and our current age right now. So it's enough about the basics. I've told you all about the basics right now. Now let's talk about some artists, some inspirations I have, and some real deals I want to share, and I want to inform you all about. So let's also check out the comments. Olaf from Fusion, from Frozen. Achha. Olaf is also very nice. I like the design of Olaf. Olaf. Fuck it. Animated biography. Sure, Abhinav. I would love to see that. So yeah, let's get back to the artists. So we all expected this to happen. Who else but this guy? The genius, the mastermind, the biggest artist of among us, the man who has more value than Monet, Beeple, also known as Mike Winkelmann, and also known as the boss. He's an American artist who has created waves in the industry, who has made NFT famous, who has become famous after so long and after so much hard work. And I'm so glad for him. This mad lad has worked his ass off for so many years, for 14 years, non-stop. Not a single day of holiday has he taken. And he has pushed out results which are incredible and make my jaws drop. That's how wonderful this guy is. He is my senpai. I will मैं इसका पूजा करूँगा, ठीक है? I worship him. He's amazing. Well, let's talk about his work so far. He has made VJ loops. VJ loops are the ones like in like let's say your concerts and all. You see the artist singing or like a DJ. The videos which play in the background, those are known as VJ loops. So he has made around 200 VJ loops, and all of them are for free. You can visit his website and get everything for free, and he has no issues with it. It's incredible, like how philanthropic this person is. 65 VJ loops for free. 10, 10, 10, 10. You can, like, if you count all of his work, which is free for download, I think it's gonna cross around 200. He is giving all of his work for free, and that's incredible. He uses Cinema 4D and Octane for his work. He has worked for Imagine Dragons, Katy Perry, and I didn't know that he has made Imagine Dragons work. I always thought maybe he's copying Imagine Dragons album arts. I never realized that he is the one who made it. And for years, I've been using his artworks as my wallpapers without realizing that he made it. My senpai. It's amazing. He is a wizard in modeling, in compositions, in animations, in lightings, in everything he does. He's a brilliant artist. And he does everything alone. He's a powerhouse. He does not use any help. He does not have any assistant artists under him. He makes everything in every day. Like, he makes new art every day. And I'm pretty sure he also has a backlog. Like, he is creating stuff in the back to post on the other day, just to keep some days free. I'm hoping, because 14 years is a big time span to commit yourself to make daily artworks. He also composes music. Some of his art VJ loops are having music composed by himself. So he is not just a 3D artist, he's also a musician, electronic musician. It's amazing. I want to show some loops and things he has made. So before that, I will show you some of his works and renders. These are the more appropriate works for YouTube right now. I don't want to show his current works, which are kind of more political and nice. He has some nice works going on. Let's just give a glimpse of what he's making lately for us. Like a fantastic Kanye West, a naked Yoda, and Buzz Lightyear. I think that was enough. थोड़ा सा दिखा देता हूँ. It's amazing the way this guy has transcended from a 3D artist to a shit poster. It's amazing. He's a big inspiration for me. Someday I want to become a professional shit poster like him. Before that, let's show you the VJ loops. I want to show one of his VJ loops, which he made like a few years ago. And that is so fantastic. It's a 0-day one.
For the past few months now, the nation's top military, intelligence, and law enforcement officials have been warning Congress and the country about a coming cyber attack.
Another weapon added to the arsenal in cyber warfare.
We have entered into a new phase of conflict in which we use a cyber weapon to create physical destruction.
A battle is waging across the internet.
140 cyber attacks on U.S. companies.
30 million lines of code written. So it is almost by definition a preemptive weapon.
The U.S. has been engaged in a series of cyber attacks. China's military successfully hacked into Pentagon computers.
Electric infrastructure will be hacked and taken down.
Millions and millions of people were caught by surprise when the electrical grid suddenly crashed.
5 national cyber police forces are involved in this attack.
Chinese sleeper viruses on the electric grid.
Nuclear power plants will be hacked.
Hospitals are closed. They completely knocked out the substation.
Major disruptions to the water supply.
Police in riot gear.
The report links China.
Chinese are doing this. The Chinese government is doing this.
The U.S. considers it an act of war.
Well, the messages don't mess with us.
Like, this is one of my favorite loops he has made, and there's another one, the transparent machines. This is a short one, like it's a 1 minute one. It's a nice one. It's on privacy and all.
We build giant corporate and government entities powered by vast amounts of personal information and expect them to be transparent machines, making our lives safer and easier. We are outraged that we are losing our privacy, yet continue to upload more of our personal info, which is sold to the highest bidder. For many people, Google and Facebook already know who your friends are, who you email, where you live, where you work, what books you read, what songs you listen to, what events you're going to, everything you search, every website you go to, and where you are right now. We are the transparent machines, generating billions of dollars for giant corporations from our private information.
Insane, right? This guy is insane. The sound design was from someone else. Interesting. The camera's working. So yeah, that was all about the people, and I had to show. He has like this for this artwork. It's one of my favorites. The name is Pre-Multiply. It's the Imagine Dragons album art for Believer, I believe. I don't know. It's one of the album arts though, but it's an amazing artwork. It looks amazing. This one has a very nice message to it about the drones and corporate life, I would say. Everything is being controlled, and I think either it is police or it is the white collar workers. This has a very nice tint. I love the colors and the composition he has used for an astronaut. Webbed down by spiders. This one has a very dystopian look into it. It is as if everyone is engrossed in their phones so much that they're not living the life anymore, and they are busy looking at a screen in front of their eyes, and they have strapped it on their face. It's amazing. Again, an astronaut one. I love the astronaut themes, and which is why I chose two. This looks fantastic as well. Now, second is Ian Hubert. This guy is amazing. This guy has taught me so much in YouTube. I am like, again, senpai. ये मेरा बाप है. He's an amazing artist. He has made amazing things. He's worked on amazing movies. He's directed them. He's produced them. He has worked as a visual effects artist, and recently he released his own show in YouTube, produced by him, directed by him, and also visually uh, affected by him. I don't know the correct term for that. So he also worked on the visual effects for the show. He took a year to release that show. It was like 22 minutes, 50 seconds of a show. The name was Dynamo. And the first episode took 365 days to make. It's insane. I think it's a lot about your struggles with your own self, whether the work is good enough or not. Working on a big project, like for him, this was a single handed movie or a show. He was taking a big project on his hand. He was the only one who was responsible for it. He was the only one who was going to get the praises or the downfall from it. So he took some time. He felt like he does not want to release it. But eventually, after some back and forth, he just released it. And I'm so happy, like it looks fantastic. It's an amazing episode, and I would request you all to watch it. Watch his channel. Even though you won't understand his Blender stuff, you can watch his watch at least this show, this episode, Dynamo. It's amazing. He is working in Blender and using cycles or Eevee. He is how I understood about how to use life hacks and how to optimize your workflows. You don't have to work on a single scene for hours. You can just apply a UV unwrap and project the image on it, and that will look good enough for the cameras, which is far from the model. He's also well versed in modeling, composition, animation, similar to the artists we have mentioned, people. And his 2 minutes or lazy tutorials, as he calls it, is just a 1 minute tutorial which is going to teach you so much in a minute that you will be surprised. Like, I learned so much in a minute. I wish education was like that. I wish I could learn about everything in a minute. That's how efficient his videos are. The most based human ever. So this is some of his artworks. Some of it was used in Dynamo as well. Like, he loves to build like dystopians and these neon cyberpunk societies, and I'm a big fan of these things. Even I want to work on these kind of things, but it takes a lot of time. Building a single scene like this will take around 2 weeks or 3 weeks of hard work. That's a lot of work. So I wanted to show a tutorial. This is one of the most popular tutorials he
Make
has.
a plane. This will be our road. Make a new material with an image texture. Use a road. Hit U, unwrap, and line it up so it looks nice in the UV editor. UVs are your friend. Now model the rest of the freeway overpass. This should be easy because it's just rectangles, but don't forget your edge loops. Select all your new geometry and apply a new material. Use some sort of cement image. Unwrap it using a cube projection. It works good in this case. Make a curve. Make it curvier. Use an array modifier to extend out your overpass geometry, and a curve modifier targeting the curve. Bam! You can use the same modifiers on anything and it'll follow the road. You just might have to tweak the position a bit. Streetlights? Yeah! Mirror. Extrude. Triangulate. Wireframe modifier. A plane with edge loops is a ladder. It's a thing. Get a car model. You can model it yourself, but my guess is somebody else beat you to it. Parent the car to the path using follow path. Duplicate the car and change it up a bit. Whoa! Now just animate them weaving from side to side and you've got yourself a little car chase.
Everything under a minute. Everything in a minute. That's how fast his tutorials are, and like you can learn a lot. I have binge watched all of his tutorials when I was starting to learn Blender, and even binge watching that was enough for me to learn a lot of things. A lot of things like the modifiers which is used in Blender, a lot of things like how to UV unwrap or how to model something. But just watching his speed tutorials, and that's amazing.
Make a plane.
Some notable mentions. I would love to talk about Dangus, Visual Dawn, James Films, and Corridor Digital. I chose just 4, but I have a list of like amazing artists, which is like ever growing. I daily find some new artists in Instagram, and I just keep following their work because it's that fantastic. So if I have to show some work from Dangus, I would love to do that. I hope you will like it. Dangus. Let's go to ArtStation. Let's show you around ArtStation. So yeah, He's also very Neo, Tokyo, and cyberpunk themed. Again, the thing I love. So you will find that common in all of my artists I follow. He has an amazing vibe to the whole scene. Like you can see the whole like the whole city. It looks busy. It's very lively and as if it's a real thing. You would want to live there. You want to feel the city. This is one of my favorite artworks he has done. The whole Bodon and the Japanese girl. I forgot what it's called. Whatever it is called. Geisha, yeah, Geisha. The Geishas in the Blade Runner 2077, Blade Runner 2049. Forgetting the numbers. So it's a similar geisha from that movie, and it has a very Blade Runner vibe to it, but more with emissions and bloom. These yellow balls, these yellow light, the purple lights, violet lights. These give it a very busy look, as everything is lit up and busy as hell. The flying cars, the bridges, the overpass, everything. It's one of the most cutest things I've seen in his work. The cat renders. I think he's a cat person. That's why he's using so many cats in his renders. It's very cute. Now next is Visual Dawn. He is more of again a VJ loop person. He also creates some VJ loops. They are like looping animations, and I would like to show you which one. There are a lot of visuals. I like the drive one and this normally. It's a very simple animation in which you are seeing a car move, the passerby cars, similar buildings, and the loop keeps on going. It must have taken him like what, 3 days or a week to finish this, but when he's selling these things in NFT, they're going to go for a large sum. This is how he got famous and also started his own career in courses, like selling courses in Udemy or your Coursera. And those courses are really good. And that's what as far as I've known and I've heard from people. He does an amazing job when it comes to making these kind of arts. I would like to show you Anomaly and this Departure too. A very simple vibe, a person walking down the pavement, looking at the galaxy. And the soundtrack is also nice, the way he chooses it. It's amazing. And lastly, Departure. His work is a very distinct feel to it. It looks outward, like it's not very realistic in terms of the aesthetic he chooses. It's not realistic. It looks outwardly something out of the world, and it's fantastic in a way. I'm using too much fantastic, right? Yeah, I know. It looks amazing. Now, James Films. He is working for NASA, and his work is amazing. I found him, I think, in YouTube watching a tutorial he made for Blender, and I was like, nice. So let's follow him in Instagram. And his work is very soothing. The way he chooses the color palettes, the way he composes them is amazing. You can see his work, and it is quite an experience. This is so soothing. Like you want to sleep on that sofa and look at the stars outside. that barren land, and it looks so photorealistic. You can't tell it's a render. That's all about his work. It's very soothing, it's very realistic, and he loves to play with the swimming pools and oceans. He also had a cloud phase, working with clouds and all. So yeah, and lastly, Corridor. Corridor has a very nice channel in YouTube. They are always reacting to new stuff, to artists and movies and all. They also create content with VFX and CGI, which is worth watching. It's amazing, and for a team of like 10 people, they are creating amazing stuff. It looks realistic, it looks amazing, and it has like a very nice humor to it. Their vlogs are also very interesting, and you get to know about the whole world of CG. You get to understand how it works. So it's worth watching if you're interested in it. It's a really nice channel to follow and look into. So the buzzword, the thing which we came for, NFTs. What is NFT? NFT stands for non-fungible tokens. But what does it mean? Basically, if I have to explain in layman terms, fungible means something which can be exchanged. But NFT is something which cannot be exchanged. If you have a Bitcoin, that is a fungible token, because you can take a Bitcoin and exchange it to the similar value of some other cryptocurrency and get it changed. You can take a Bitcoin and get it converted into Ethereum and get yourself Ethereum from the online store like Coinbase or something. But in the case of NFTs, when you buy an NFT, you cannot convert it into another artwork because it's one of a kind. Usually the artist is only selling one of it pieces, but sometimes you also see multiple NFTs like 10 NFTs or 20 NFTs, the collector editions and all. The artist is selling for different price points and all. So that's another thing. But when you are buying a NFT, like the number it has been given, the number 1 out of 10, the number 2 out of 10 stays unique. That's the unique factor to those pieces. An NFT is basically an art form or any music or a soundtrack. It can be a photo, it can be a picture of this desktop, picture of me, and I can put it on OpenSea and put it for auction. Maybe someone will buy it. I don't know, but why? Don't buy my photo, please. I will not do that. But NFTs are for the public as an art collection form. You can collect it. You can wait for the price to inflate, like to explode, and you can sell it off. As the artist grows, it is usually the trend that the art he sells also increases in price. So let's say someone who bought Beeple's artwork. In few years, Beeple does something crazy. His market value increases. All of his art pieces become double. Let's say I don't want him to, let's say in near future, Beeple is no more with us, but his artwork is there. But then people are going to buy his artworks. I don't want this to happen. I'm just saying, I'm just giving an example. If he's no more with us, then his art pieces will have a much higher value than they have right now. And that's how the collectors can make money out of it. It's very dark, but yeah, that's how it works in the art world. And it's a very feasible way for the art collectors to collect some art forms and sell it later on when the price is feasible for them to make some money out of it. There are normal collectors who don't sell it and just keep it as a collection, as the memento of the art piece, of the artist they love, to support them. So if I buy an NFT, let's say I bought an NFT from Beeple, what do I get from that? I get a certificate of owning. I get a crypto certificate that I own the art piece and nobody else apart from me is going to own it. But you can always download the photo. You can always download the video, which was sold for millions of dollars. His latest art piece, which was involving all of his artworks, the 5,000, was sold for $69 million. That is $15 million extra compared to Monet's artworks. And we know that Beeple is not Monet, but it is what it is. The value of art is not up to us. It's up to the artist. Beeple has worked his ass off for so many years, and I think he really deserves the money he's getting right now. After so long, after 14 years of little recognition, getting so much recognition is something he is worth it. He deserves it. These are some of the NFT selling sites like OpenSea, Rarible. Super Rare, Foundation, Atomic Market, Myth Market, Bakery Swap, Known Origin. I know few of these. I don't know some of these. I am using OpenSea right now. I've posted a artwork there, but sadly I was not able to sell anything so far because you need to constantly post stuff. If you want to sell your NFTs, then you have to very consistent. Then you have to be very consistent. If you keep on posting stuff, if you have a good user base or a fan base, then it's easy to sell your NFTs. And lastly, I think you must be wondering, should you buy NFTs as an investment, or should you even care about it? Should you get into it? Should you sell your stuff as NFTs? Sure, you can sell your stuff as NFTs, but buying is not my cup of tea. Like, you should buy to support your artist, your favorite artist. If I ever get big, I would love if you buy my artworks. So, should you buy it? NFT is something which is totally dependent on the user, on the fan. Do you find value in buying and supporting your favorite artist? If it is, then you should buy NFTs. If it is not, then you should not buy it. It is as simple as that. But there's a very big scam going on, as it always happens in technology world. Where you see some buzzwords happen, there will be some scam artists also. When Bitcoin was launched, we had scammers like BitConnect who wanted to get on the board of the ship, who wanted to scam people who were like unaware of the whole thing and were trying to get money out of the illiterate people in the Bitcoin world or cryptocurrency world. Similarly, in NFTs, we have a new scam, which is also known as Earth 2. So Earth 2 is trying to sell the land of the digital Earth they have created, apparently, digital replica of Earth having all the details of the real Earth in their digital Earth. I don't know how, but they are going to sell those land pieces as if they are properties on our real Earth which have actual value. They want to sell these digital and land masses to some really smart people, and these smart people are going to sell these land masses to even smart people in future and make money out of it. I don't know how, but yeah. So this is the game plan. They want to sell fake Earth to smart people. Don't do this kind of stuff. Don't get into NFTs to like buy Earth stocks and be like, I'm going to be rich by selling the new Earth stocks. Don't do that. Don't. So that was all about NFTs. Now I want to talk about modern art. I want to get into something more interesting. I want to talk about art. How is art and how does it feel as a developer to get into the field of creatives? I want to talk about it and like share my opinions and all. So initially, I always thought that art is a very niche field and it's not for everyone. I should not be getting into it. I think I always thought I would not belong in the field, but in the COVID, as the quarantine happened, I started working on my artistic skills. I started working on Blender, and I found out that it's a very interesting and a very fun field. It's not a very niche or only for few people. It can be for everyone. And here comes modern art. Modern art can be described as anything and everything. It can be like anything can be an art form and everything can be an art form. On the left, we have Van Gogh, his Starry Night as one of the most beautiful pieces I've seen. And I love those worlds and the stars he has depicted. But I'm pretty sure like back in the day, a lot of people were not accepting of his artworks, which did not look that realistic. And they shunned him, which led to his demise. But right now, we are the entire world is a big fan of his artworks, and I think very few people will be against his work. Then we have something which is mixed and has both the support and the outrage from the people, which is Christo and John Cloud's work. This duo was always making something which was very unique. They always tried to cover the land masses and create something with an impact. Like I will show you some of their works, but This is one of my favorite works, the running fence. This is an 18 feet high cloth, which is running for 24 miles on a desert. It has a very interesting story to tell. They are trying to see the impact humans can do on Earth mass. Like they are trying to cover up things, and they have also covered up monuments with cloth, with plastics. They have covered up trees with plastics, and for an artistic reason. They never tried to destroy anything. Whenever they were doing this art form, they were very punctual about repairing things if they were broken, and they made sure that they were not damaging anything with the art they are trying to demonstrate. And the removal was also very smooth, and they did not do anything wrong with the whole demonstration. Some of the work will be the duo. This is the floating island which they were just wrapped with plastic. They are trying to showcase the impact of humanity on the natural beauty of the world, of our Earth. They were covering things up with gigantic measures, and they were using huge trash cans or barrels to float on the lakes and all. They're kind of this kind of artwork has a very monumental impact, or they have a very figurative reason in their artworks. I'm not a very big fan of their work, so I'm not be able to explain what I should be. If I was a big fan, I would be able to do that. And there comes one of the amazing artists, Jackson Pollock, and one of his drip paintings. I cannot make sense what he wanted to tell with his paintings, because it looks like 9-year-old's work. Even my niece or nephew can make better things than Jackson Pollock has did in his whole life. And I really don't care what you have to say about his work. It is not worth $200 million. Never. I will not agree on this fact that he is selling his work for $200 million. How? Let's just move along from modern art, and let's get to something really modern, like art with technology. Art has seen a huge evolution, and it is changing to become digital. Right now, we have seen the works from great artists and all, but in the future, we are going to see art to be made entirely by code, made by the computers, by scientists, by researchers. It will not be made by artists, it will be made by people who are working on the computer to make new artworks with code, with silicon. I would like to show this video. It's a 10 minutes video. I think it's a worth watch, and I would like to watch along with you all.
It's easy to get lost in Rafiq Anadol's surreal installations. But dig a little deeper, and you realize his work is made up of millions of tiny pieces, and that every single little point represents a piece of data that he's fed through a neural network to show us his vision of our future.
I was always trying to speculate this idea of, can data become a pigment? At the end, the data is a truly numbers that has no kind of any skin or skeleton. But what I'm trying to as an artist is find the algorithm that can narrate the moment of data, kind of make that invisible moment visible.
Enormous data sets inspire most of Anadol's art, and he uses machine intelligence and algorithms to create visualizations, what he calls data sculptures, like this piece called Machine Hallucinations. He started by finding 113 million images of New York online
and let the machine learn from this entire corpus of data. And then we also find a way to erase the humans from this data and only focus on the buildings, nature, and environments that is a collective memory of New York.
Once all of the images of people were removed, Anadol was left with 10 million pictures of New York. He fed them through a machine learning algorithm that generates visual associations as it learns. For example, when it sees multiple photos of the Statue of Liberty taken from slightly different angles, the algorithm interpolates information to help it create a moving, shifting image that represents the entire life cycle of the structure.
Machine looks at this information like a human being, but it's kind of more like a collective memories than a personal memories, because a building in New York can be explored by thousands of perspectives from multiple angles, from a different time of the year. It's more like an honest memory for a machine because it feels more totalitarian and like feels everything and everyone than just one person.
Anadol covered the walls and the floor of a boiler room in a building in Lower Manhattan with this machine-interpreted dynamic landscape. If you ask him, he'll tell you that the machine is dreaming.
When a machine learns from outputs and memories like this, it can create an alternative reality. It looks at the patterns of the trees, the buildings, the nature, the people, every single thing hidden inside this image corpus. Seeing a machine giving a context of data and creating an hallucinative outputs was something like really inspiring.
Anadol created this piece to celebrate the centennial of the LA Philharmonic, using 500,000 images, thousands of audio recordings, and hundreds of videos from the orchestra's archive.
It's really insane, like how far people have come in artworks, and they're using machines to even make artworks now. They are giving meaning to like insignificant data, like photos, which were taken by pedestrians and all, and they are making artworks out of it. It is really insane, like how it is all changing like, lately. He even is like this entire video is really nice, and I would recommend you to watch it. He is also using things like wind data from the Empire State Buildings, and he generated art from it. He just put the numbers through a neural network and gave some. The output was turned into an artwork. It was as if the entire weather was singing in the form of visuals. It is really insane, like what this guy is doing, and I would keep an eye out for his work because it is really interesting. So let's check some. Wait a second. Video paused. Shit. I think my phone must have frozen because I'm using my phone to share the video, like capture the video. Going. Let me just fix it. Get back to it. Right. Yep, it's back. Yes, so the video, the comments, let's read those. Well, I don't know which scene you're talking about, but I think it's CGI. Cyberpunk vibes, yep. If you're talking about Danguis, then yes, his work is. So, you want to start with 3D. So how should you do it? Now that's a question like a lot of people have had, but they are not able to start because 3D is kind of intimidating and it is kind of hard at first. But let me clear it out. If you want to start, it is always easy to start and then get better at it. You don't have to become the best. You don't have to look at your peers or the artists you aspire to become at the first day and be like, I'm not there yet. It will take time. It's a very slow process in which you have to learn a lot of tools, a lot of things, but eventually you will get better. So if you want to try it out, if you ever want to learn something, I'm always there for contact. You can always come to me in Instagram or someplace and I will help you out in any way I can. But if you want to look up some resources, I would recommend looking into Blender. I would recommend learning about Blender and the tool itself, checking out YouTube channels like Ian Hubert, Blender Guru, CG Cookie, Default Q, William Langren, and Ducky 3D, as I mentioned in the slide. But there are tons of tutorials. Blender has like at least 1,000 YouTube channels just making tutorials on a daily basis. They post like monthly, and their stuff is incredible. The community I've found in Blender is so intimate and so close knit. It's amazing. They are willing to help you out when you're stuck in a process. They are willing to come in a VC in Discord and help you out. That's how good the communities are. I'm in around 20 Discord servers of these YouTubers and some 3D art channels also. And I've never found out anyone to be toxic or anyone to be not helpful. Everyone is very helpful in whenever they have time to help. So if you want to start with Blender, my recommendation is to start with Blender Guru. Blender Guru has a very nice tutorial. He is going to teach you about making donuts. Well, who does not love donuts? Everyone loves donuts. But this simple tutorial has 24 videos into it.
If you're a 3D
but it is a really nice video. Let me just play his tutorial and like trailer and
artist, you need to know Blender. It's completely free and is exploding in popularity right now. I've been using it for 15 years, and now I'm passing that knowledge on to you in a free YouTube tutorial series. You'll learn how to make this donut, and in doing so, learn the most common features of Blender, like the user interface, navigation, modeling, materials, lighting, and much more. So buckle up and get ready to make some virtual donuts with me. G'day!
I'm not going to play the tutorial, don't worry. It's a lengthy tutorial. It's going to take you around a week to finish and render the whole donut. But it's a really nice venture. I started doing this, and I think I started in July. It's been almost a year since I started working on Blender. A year and 2 months right now. But the journey has been incredible. I started with Blender Guru. I started with watching his tutorials and finishing it in 3 days or something. And it was a very enthralling experience because making the donut on your own and working out all the bugs and squishing them, learning new tool is a very nice experience, which is well worth having. Then there are people like Ian who are going to teach you in a minute. CG Cookie is a very nice tutorial. Like their channel is a group effort in which they will have multiple tutors which are going to teach you a lot about CG and not just Blender. Default Cube is also Default Cube, William, and Ducky. These three are entirely Blender. But if you want to start, Blender is a very nice tool because it is free, it is open source, and the community is very nice. These three aspects are a big reason why I'm still sticking with Blender and not learning something else like Cinema 4D or Houdini. Even though I will be learning Houdini just for the simulations and the effects, but it's amazing. Blender is a wonderful experience and you all must try it out. I'm thinking of doing a seminar or a workshop again on Blender and try to teach you to make a simple render. So let's see how it goes. And if it works out, it is amazing. So for the closing thoughts, if there's anything you want to talk to me in the comments, I'm going to read it. When he had gun, Terminator when he had gun, that was CG. That was not VFX. It was entirely CG. You cannot do that in VFX because even if you try to composite anything and like use some practical effects, it's not possible to get the same effect of his face and all. I can show you a video, but it will be lengthy. I can give you a link for it. There's a video in Color Digital where they try to mimic the same scene, and they're using the modern tools to make it in a day. It's a good video to watch. You can watch it. They did a kind of good job with that. $365 days for one episode. Yeah, that's yeah. You're talking about Ian, yeah. It took so long to finish it because it was a kind of big thing for him. I'm pretty sure he like finished the whole scene, the whole movie in, let's say, 3 months, 4 months. That's about good enough for his speed and workflow. But the thing is that like when he's finishing the whole thing, when he's compositing it in the After Effects or whatever tool he uses for the VFX, he kind of had a afterthought of not releasing it, of discarding the whole thing. We all have an imposter syndrome as an artist or when we're working in any field. That's what he was going through it. And I'm pretty happy that he overcame it and released the video, released the show. Here it is. Let me see. Anamo, Salad Mug. It's 21 minutes and 32 seconds. He released it 3 months ago. It has got 1.5 million views. And it's amazing. Like this guy is getting some recognition. He gets recognition from everywhere. He's one of the best artists. Like, I was just checking out who are the best 3D artists in Google. And as you can see, Beeple is there. But in the 4th place, we have Ian. And it was very happy for, like, I was very happy to see that. Well, guys, I think I'm going to conclude the session here. It was a pretty lengthy session, 1 hour 40 minutes, as you can see. So I hope you got to know about something about like 3D, VFX, and CGI. If you have anything to talk to me regarding this, I'm always open in Telegram. Yeah, you know some terms. It's amazing. If you watch more tutorials, like not tutorials, if you watch Corridor, you will love it. After this session, I'm pretty sure you can just log into the Corridor Digital's channel and like binge watch their stuff. It's amazing. Well, guys, bye-bye. Take care.